Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
And in this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, well, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Hello, my beautiful friend. It is Christy here. I am so excited to announce a very, very special gift that I am offering all gals who pre-order my book, Love Life Sober, a 40-day alcohol fast. I am going to be personally coaching you through this book for 6 weeks, starting September 30th in the But Jesus Drink Wine community. When you pre-order the book, you'll get a special invitation to join us for free for 3 months. That's a $72 value. Every single Monday, I am going to coach you through this book so that you don't have to do this alone. That was the whole reason I wanted to write this book, is so that you wouldn't feel alone. You'll be able to gather with a group of like-minded women every single Monday, starting September 30th when you pre-order the book. There's a link in the show notes, and at that link, you'll find a place to pre-order the book, and you'll find a link to jump into the community for 3 months for free, which includes 6 weeks of coaching with yours truly through the book, Love Life Sober, a 40-day alcohol fast. I cannot wait to meet you. Now here's this week's episode. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, my friend.
Hi. Good day to you.
Good day to you, you weirdo.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to talk about this. What are we talking about?
I think it's only appropriate that we start this episode in a playful way, like we always do. So the idea, you guys, I got the inspiration from this episode. Yes, this is me talking. You're not going to believe your ears. I know it. I got the inspiration for this episode from Instagram. Can you believe
She was on the
that?
gram, guys. She was on the gram. She went to the dark side.
I was being an obedient partner in crime here and hopping on Instagram to share the post that Christy just so beautifully makes it so easy for me to do. And I see our friend Sharon Hottie Miller. She is at the top of my feed with this. Something I'm chewing on. One mark of anxiety is the absence of playfulness. And I think we know this intuitively. It's why humor disarms and lowers the temperature. Play is a sign of peace. Okay, I want to focus on that first sentence. One mark of anxiety is the absence of playfulness. You guys, I read this and I was like, yes, that is so true. If I had that 5 years ago as like a rubric for where I was on the anxiety scale, that would have been so helpful to me. And so hence us bringing it and having this conversation here today with y'all, because I think we see this all the time with the thousands of women, thousands of people we've coached. You can get so locked into, I'm stuck in the struggle with alcohol. I need to remove it from my life. And without bringing in the stuff that actually is going to help move the needle on a long-term over the long-term kind of mark, meaning what are you doing to cope with anxiety? We know that alcohol doesn't help with anxiety. We know that, okay? We have the science that backs that up. But do you have play in your life? And if you don't, maybe that's an opportunity to bring some of that in while you're trying to crowd out alcohol, bringing in the playfulness. And so, Christy, what does play look like to you?
Before we get into that, I just want to say, I'm going to pull a Mead and do a tangent. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I just think it's so important because so many people think that this road of freedom from alcohol has to be heavy and hard and boring and tough. And I'm not saying it's not tough, and I'm not saying it's not hard. But one of the things that I think we both try to do, one of the things that I definitely, when I went to go start this whole coaching thing, is I wanted to bring fun to this. I wanted to bring play to this because I want people to feel better and feel happy. And so it's not all about taking things away. It's not all about deprivation and removing the alcohol and being miserable. It's about getting to put these things like play into your life, and it's about discovering what that is. And I was actually just coaching even a group this week who were like, how do we even know what we like? How do we even know what
Mhm.
is fun or even constitutes as play? And it like hung in the air, this question, like it was hard and heavy, but actually that's a really fun question, because guess what you get to do to find out what constitutes as play for you? You get to go try it all out. You get to go act like a 10-year-old again, right? And have fun. And if you guys have kids, if you gals have kids, what are they doing in the backyard? So we just moved to Surrey. I don't know if you know that. How many times have I said that in this podcast?
I still don't
What
know
the
where it is, but I do know
Okay,
where
well,
you
I'm
are
gonna
now.
get you over
Give
here.
me a map.
So, one of the things that we used to love to do as Londoners was get out of the city and rent houses in the countryside. And it really cemented for us in COVID, which is get out and have a little bit of a yard, right? Have some space. And we fell in love with badminton, which I playfully call badminton because I think that's what Carter called it, like way back in the day.
Cute.
So now that we're out in Surrey, like we have a little badminton out there, and it is so our like little family play. And when the kids are like gone down the YouTube or Instagram rabbit hole and everyone's just like, whatever, I'm like, everybody phones down, badminton time. And it's so fun. And just so that's my like most recent addition to the play schedule. But
I
yeah.
I love that. It's because I think about how that was not something that I was even taking into consideration. I didn't even know we were allowed to I didn't know we were allowed to play as adults. I thought it was
Yeah.
just like work and do and be all these things, and there wasn't any intentionality or any thought given to that. And when I saw this quote yesterday, I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, ladies out there listening, how much play do you have in your life? And if you don't, that's one of the easiest hacks for increasing dopamine naturally, so that as we
Mhm.
are removing alcohol, we're finding these other ways of naturally creating that pleasure, so to speak. And it also made me think of when we had the fun little chat around your book with the gals reviewing your book, and someone said so poignantly, because I live in this world, and so I forget that this world is not what is out there in the sober verse, so to speak, but the fact that it is joyful here on the way that we go about this and the methodology and this kind of like freedom from alcohol space that we live in. I do think a lot of that comes from being Christ followers. The joy comes from
Yes.
the
Yeah.
spirit, obviously, but where so much of the sober verse can look not as joyful, not as playful. I think that is something that is it can't be discussed enough, which is why we're talking about it here again today. There is a difference between being trying every single day for the rest of your life not to drink and just managing or white knuckling or holding on, or being over in this place where you're free from alcohol and joy is present and playfulness. So my recent example is Lily Jet went away to a church retreat. It was her first little camp church retreat away. And she came home and she was exhausted and normally she would want us to play teacher or school or do something like that. But she didn't even have energy for that, which is rare for this child. And can we just watch something together? So we curled up on my bed and this is not something we would ever choose, but she picked the Muppets Take Manhattan. And we watched that together and because they were silly, we ended up being silly and playful from that movie. And it was just one of those like moments where I was like, "Oh my gosh, this would have been so different 5 years ago." And thank you that I had this opportunity to like experiment with my Kermit voice and experiment with my Miss Piggy voice with
Go
her.
do it. Do
No,
it.
I won't.
Yep.
Nope, I won't.
Do it. I
I won't
want
do it.
Kermit.
I won't
Why
do it.
not?
No, I
Give the
can't.
people what they want.
Give the people the play, Mead. You're preaching the play.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Come
Yeah.
on. I couldn't even do it. I can't even think about what it sounds like in my head right now, but since
It's
you have
like,
just recently watched it,
oh, Miss Piggy. And
yes,
I can't do it.
you
It's not
can.
good. I
Right. You're
can't. No.
fired. You're fired.
Anyway, but we just had fun playing and just being. But it did take me a little bit of prepping to get to that place. And what I mean by that is I did have some things on my list that I wanted to knock off around the house. And it was an intentional, as long as I was carrying my to-do list into that time with her, into a time that could be playful, I wasn't able to access play, right? Because I was still thinking about these things that I had on my list. So it was just this kind of like surrender to this present moment, being there and allowing the playfulness to come out of it. She's mom. I'm like, I know. Yeah, like you're crazy. I'm like, I know. We had so much fun. But it's like those kinds of little, how many opportunities are you getting with that? And maybe that's a good gauge for you.
Can I just say what I've just realized now, live processing in this moment? This is why I love Taylor Swift. I actually like her music is great and fun. It's really fun and whatever, but she's just like a human person, right? Like it's actually not about her at all for me. It's about like playing with Ella, right? And by
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
dressing up in head to toe
Yes.
glitter
Yes.
and jumping up and down and dancing and making bracelets and all of that stuff. And I think that's part of the reason that like she's such a phenomenon to women is because it's like this permission almost to get out there and jump up and down and make bracelets and have fun and all the things, especially with your daughter. There's so many like moms and daughters at those, or just girlfriends and all that stuff. And so I think that's why it's massive. Yes, she has great music, fine. She's a great songwriter, but it's about the experience. It's about all of that. And that's why I went 3 times.
That's so good. And that totally relates to how we it's about that connection with Ella. It's something that like girls do together. And it also reminds me of how Bob Goff, like he would say, find out what they're interested in and go learn that
Yeah.
thing. Like, way to be the mom that is interested in what she's interested in so that it does create that connection and that bond. And I think about how there are the good things that can create that and how similarly we get stuck in alcohol thinking alcohol is
Yeah.
that thing that's creating connection with other people, maybe not with our yeah, there's the experience of like just being able to be
Well,
free and be yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking again, live processing here. I think that also this is why we end up getting hooked on alcohol, right? Is because it offers women who haven't had that playfulness for a
Mhm.
little bit in their life. I'm sorry. The parties that I used to have at my house, like, were just crazy. Like, we would just like break out
Mhm.
props and perform and dancing on the kitchen island and the Sonos speakers falling out of the ceiling. And like in the
Yes.
moment, we thought it was really fun. And it was almost this gateway. We talked about this in the community recently, didn't we? To like fun, but then of course ignoring all the consequences, ignoring everything that came with that. And so I think this is
Mhm.
why. This is something that is so needed. This is something that we desperately crave. It's the joy, it's the play, it's the fun, all of that. And it's almost like gives, I think, gals that aren't used to intentionally putting this in their life almost a permission slip to get like wild and crazy and goofy.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
like you actually don't need to drink a class 1 carcinogen that makes you feel horrible in order to get wild and silly and goofy. And that is something that
Yes.
I would have never ever thought in a million years. And if you're driving your car right now and you're rolling your eyes at me, it's okay, sister. I feel you because wouldn't ever think I would say that either.
Responding to the heartfelt requests from you, our wonderful, wonderful listeners, for a deeper sense of community, we are so excited to introduce y'all to the But Jesus Drink Wine community.
Get ready to be part of an exclusive experience where you'll join a sisterhood of kindred spirits on a transformative journey of faith, sobriety, and personal growth.
You'll gain access to our private community, a place where deep connections can flourish among women who share your aspirations of strengthening faith in Christ and breaking free from alcohol.
But wait, there's more. We'll host regular connection calls to facilitate fellowship with like-minded gals, no matter where you stand on your alcohol or faith journey. Whether you're seasoned or just curious, you are very warmly welcomed here.
Prepare to be inspired by guest expert sessions and engaging Q&As that explore the essential topics for your sobriety, faith, and holistic wellness journey.
Don't miss out on securing your spot. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.
We can't wait to see your beautiful face in the But Jesus Drank Wine community. Yeah. Yeah. And I would have been, if I was listening to you 5 years ago, I would have been rolling my eyes at you. But
Yeah.
you're exactly right, and what you had said before, when you've said this multiple times, like, you were confusing fun with chaos, like, meaning over the long term,
Yeah.
maybe you had these little snippets of what looked like fun,
Yeah.
and maybe they were fun in the moment, but to your point, over the long term, it created chaos, but also you don't need the alcohol to have that kind of fun. Like you
Yeah.
don't. You just don't. To we both talked about like dancing on tables and why do we need alcohol to do that? I would rather experience that kind of play and fun, get over my worried about other people, what other people think or whatever is hanging me up about it, and experience that fully so I can feel it fully, the joy of that fully. That's the other part. It's like you can have these little snippets of the fun, so to speak, but also they're not as fun as they could be because they are, by nature of the fact that alcohol is an anesthetic, you're desensitized to even how fun those things can be.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're rolling your eyes at us and thinking that this is not possible, then we totally get you. It's just one of these things where you have to slowly, this is why having a coach can be helpful, go out and try these
Mhm.
slowly over time and realize that the first couple times feel awkward, feels like fish out of water vibes. Then it feels like neutral. And then you really start to have fun. And so this takes time. This is not an overnight thing. Shout out to one of our besties and leadership team members, Lauren, who, when she started her alcohol free journey, she had like 17 40th birthday parties in front of her, all which were costume parties. And so I loved how, like, literally, like, receiving the outfits and all of but she ended up, of course, they were awkward in the beginning, but then she made it fun over time. I had another example. Oh, I was coaching a gal over here in the UK, and it was at the start of summer season over here, which is like all the big social stuff. And she was just like, how am I going to do Royal Ascot? And how am I going to do this? And how am I going to do blah, 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 all these things, polo, Wimbledon, all these things. And it was, you have all the data of doing those things with alcohol and and maybe sometimes like 10 minutes of it being fun. But you've got to go out and gather the data of those things being fun without alcohol. And then you get to make the choice. And then I'm sorry, I'm literally rambling. I'm the rambler today. What's going
No,
on?
I don't know, but it's a nice little break for me, our listeners. But it's so true, and it also is one of those things that we've said before, but I just feel if in case anyone's listening to this for the very first time, it has to be said again. It may not be fun right away, too, and
Yeah.
that's okay. Keep
Yeah.
practicing it, and it can get to that. But what I love to encourage is like getting curious about what does play. When I say, "Do you have play in your life?" What does play look like to you? If you can't immediately give me an answer, boom. And by the way, I was asking myself the same questions yesterday when I saw this quote and I had to give it some thought for sure. So if you can't immediately go, "Yes, this is how I play and this is what I do and this is the last time I played." Sister, like whether you're stuck in the drinking cycle or not, I it's all good, but get curious about that because I think there's an opportunity to shift our mindset from what we're trying to not do and welcome in something that again gives the natural dopamine release over time. And it love life sober, like your book. It's not miserable. It's not miserable. Now, are there times that I have to be more serious? And I would love to be able to just play all the time. I really would. I think it'd be really fun to play all the time. Um, 90% of it is more 90% increase in play just in even doing the work stuff now than before. But yeah, I think it's an opportunity for all of us to maybe gauge where we are on that anxiety scale. And
Yeah.
if we're not taking play into consideration, if we're not being intentional about welcoming in play, then we're missing out on something that's not just fun, but something that's really actually good for us too, biochemically and all.
Yeah.
We were watching Legally Blonde and yeah, it endorphins, like happy people have endorphins.
Well, I quoted that in the book, right?
Which
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I
But
got really excited. I was like, this is my opportunity to quote Legally Blonde.
like, just watching Legally Blonde with my 16-year-old the other day and being and she was impressed that I knew more of the quotes than she did, and that was a way of being playful because I couldn't do it in the anyway, apparently play means to me, like, doing all the voices of all the things I'm watching, because now I'm thinking about I was doing the voices of Kermit and doing the voices
Oh,
that
can I
Al
wait,
Bunce.
wait, I've got a new play. I've got a new play thing that Carter and I have been doing.
Yeah.
So, thank you to Ryan Reynolds, who has brought back the Bye 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 in Sync dance because it was in some Marvel movie this summer. And so
Oh.
he's like, "Mama, do you know the Bye 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 dance?" And I was like, "Honey, I was a cheerleader in the late '90s. Do I know it?"
Can
And
we
so
get a video of this, Christy?
maybe. If I can
Okay.
get him to do it with me filmed, yes. But it's also now really fun because when I drive him to the bus, that's our, like, morning pump up song, and I don't hate it because 'cause I'm not gonna lie, I was a very big NSYNC fan.
I love all the things that our kids think they, like, invent, and I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm taking
Yeah.
that we made this popular, okay? Like, we are the
Yeah.
OGs on this one." But, yeah, that's such a good example. Dancing, turning on music and dancing, both of my girls are dancers. Crawford, he likes to dance funny, like a comedian would. But turning on we always have music on and being able to just, like, move with the music and take a dance break in the middle of setting up for supper or whatever it is. Those are just these little opportunities of play. And I really, I'm like, how many that it's going to be my new like little way to gauge like where I am on that anxiety scale overall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so interesting because it's like it's I don't know. Let's talk about it. Where would you put it in importance level with rest? I would almost say it's just sorry. I would almost say it's just as important as rest. And so for
100%.
people that are and especially women that are goal oriented with a to-do list 3 miles long and always figuring like they have to get stuff done, like this is the stuff you guys. This is the stuff that we want you to experiment and get curious with putting in is rest and play. And this is Jesus says he came to the world to let us live life to the full. And one of the things that one of the gals in our leadership team put in our chat too was, and I thought of this too when you proposed this episode of if anybody's out there has watched The Chosen, which we're all obsessed with, just giving this way to view Jesus, they've just done a really great job. And the fact that he is really playful and he's funny. And I just never saw him really that way. Like when he's like having the back and forth with the disciples and they're like, laughing and giggling about some of this stuff that like we're because it is you have to get together with the people that you love and enjoy them and play with them.
That's so true. It's the stories that keep us stuck. My story of God, of Jesus, my idea of him as a dictator, authoritarian, just very strict
Yeah.
guy, right? And then to have this, to open my imagination to actually his part of his nature is to be playful.
And
And
that's why he wanted to hang out with kids all the time,
yeah,
right?
yes. Oh, I love it so much. So I had this question come up to me after I was processing this yesterday. I was like, at what age did I learn, like, at what age did I stop playing? At what
Yeah.
age did I either learn that it wasn't okay to play and it needed to be serious? So I was curious about all these stories that have kept me stuck over the years. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think the teen years are so interesting because they almost like they tap into these grumpy grown-up vibes and then
Mm,
they tap into these like little kid vibes. And obviously, I just love it when the
right.
playful little kid vibes comes out, which is why I went to the Eras tour 3 times. And so I don't know when it is. Maybe it's probably different for everybody,
Yeah.
right? I don't know.
Yeah.
College, I don't know. Law school, I'm trying to think of my own like when did I get super serious and boring? I don't know, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? The only time I was, like, playful was when I was getting smashed.
Yeah, Lily Jet and I have been reading Anne of Green Gables and like her imagination and like what Anne of Green Gables does in the book with play. It reminded me of being a little girl and going and playing in the woods next to my house and having this whole
Yeah.
elaborate scene set up. And I'm like, I really don't think that we were supposed to leave that part of our brains aside and that part of our
No.
nature. And I think that I know for me, for sure, I got into just the social party scene as a teenager. And so at some point, yeah, it did shift. And I just didn't realize that we were allowed to play. And now I'm like, we should have more play than work. We should work really efficiently and well and have more time in play, right? Because we didn't, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. When you're done reading it, you have to watch Anne with an E. It's on Netflix. Have you watched it?
yeah. Yeah, we started it, but yeah. Yeah. I don't think she's quite
No?
ready for it. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna say the beginning episodes when she's in the orphanage and stuff are pretty dark, but
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
love that. Okay,
Yeah, I don't think we're quite ready for it. Yeah. But yes, I have that on my radar because I loved
okay.
that was what made me think of it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I used to be obsessed with this whole series."
Same.
I read all those books backwards, forwards. I'm so excited that she's into them, and I'm thinking, like, where did I become someone that doesn't play? And that's okay. Like, it's okay, no judgment, hashtag no judgment. But some of those same things that I enjoyed then, maybe I'm not going in the woods next to my house now, setting up a little like fairy world like I did when I was 10. But what are those elements? What are those things that made me feel so free? And yeah, what are those things and how can I bring them in now? I've talked about here like bike riding. I loved hopping on my beach cruiser and cruising around the neighborhood with my girlfriends, my girl gang, all the way through elementary school. And being able to hop on a bike and when we go to a beach where we can hop on beach cruisers and cruise around, there's something so liberating about that, or being on a swing. And you don't have to have those kinds of props necessarily to have play. We play pickleball in the driveway as a family at times, or I go hit tennis balls at the tennis court with Crawford. Serious, we're playing tennis, but also there's like play involved because I'm talking Crawford. Like I'm smack talking my kid and he anyway, that like there are these opportunities for play and I just find it to be something that I know that I want to be more intentional in. I love laughing. I think about Bob Goff and going to the retreat when I saw him back in January and he's, "Hey, you want to see me hypnotize a chicken?" And we're like, "Sure." And here's a lasso. You want to learn how to like just everything is pl- play. Like play, not everything. He works really hard too. But I think there's something beautiful about that. And I think it's more aligned with how we're created to live.
Yeah. They have done so much research on this, and I don't have it in front of me, but I know that they have that science has shown that it's like essential to actually the human brain
Mhm.
developing, and it taps into this whole idea of needing creativity and needing innovation and all of this good
Mhm.
stuff that we just cannot do if we're just living a life by our to-do list, right? And if you can't think of anything that right off the top of your head where you're like, "Oh, that's my thing that I enjoy playing." What is something that you enjoy doing that where you lose track of time, right? That you're not
Mhm.
checking
That's
your
good.
watch, that you're not checking your phone. What is that thing? It could even just be walking. It could be anything. It could be anything. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a sport. It doesn't have to be dancing. It doesn't all that
Yeah.
stuff is so fun, but it can be anything that just allows your brain to break. That's why I think it's so important as just as important as rest. It's just a different part of our like amazing God made brains like developing
We
in the
need it.
way that they should. And in this current day and age, we don't prioritize it.
And it makes sense from a very elementary, like physiological level. There is something about releasing that pent up energy. If we're always working, if we're always tasked, if we have jobs, we're sitting behind desks, or we're moms who are in the car a lot driving kids around, anxiety builds. That is like pent up energy in your body and it has to be released. And so, doing something that allows you to not just feel better because it feels better, but also expel some of that energy, like way back before the modern days when, you know, people would work outside all day and that was part of their being able to move that energy out of their bodies so that stress didn't get stuck. Whereas we sit behind a desk all day and then all of a sudden we're going home, but we haven't sloughed off that stress that we've carried. And yeah, even just I'm thinking of the Tiny Tina 5 minutes of stillness. We've talked about set a timer for 5 minutes. That's one of my favorite ways to get people learning to practice silent stillness, solitude, or just being okay, being bored, so to speak, not doing anything. But similarly, we could say 5 minutes of turning on a song and just moving your body like to the music. Nobody's around, nobody's watching. Like it doesn't, just see how it feels before and after. Is it really hard to do? Is it not? What did you enjoy about it? What did you not? Something I also love doing is singing. I can't sing at all, but I know that I feel so playful, joyful when I'm singing. And set a timer for 5 minutes and turn on a favorite song and sing some NSYNC. Bring back the NSYNC and the New Kids on the Block, okay? And sing it at the top of your lungs. And how does that feel? And be curious about it. Be open to that. Doesn't have to be anything grand.
I love that. Great Tiny Tina, babe.
Thanks.
It
On the
just
fly.
presented itself so lovely.
So if you've done the other Tiny Tina, 5 minutes, how's that going? You're setting your timer for 5 minutes and you're sitting in stillness. It's probably getting easier if you're practicing it. Now you can just add on this next little, we're not saying like you have to practice all of these new things all the time and whatever. Like it doesn't have to be complicated. But now similarly, set a 5 minute, if you start at the 5 minute timer at the beginning of the day, sitting in silence, maybe end your day with a 5 minute timer, turn on some music and just do what your body feels like it could do. You don't have to do it
Yeah,
around other people. I don't know. Yeah.
I love that. Such a great chat, babe. Love this
That,
one.
that was good.
Yeah. If
Okay,
you
friends.
gals are in the community, post what you did to play this week in the community. And if you're not in the community, why aren't you in the community? Come join us. There's a link in the show notes.
Come hang out with us. We are having such a good time. We are playing in the community. That's
We're
for sure.
like almost 60 gals strong now, I think.
Yeah.
Yay.
So wild.
So wild.
So fun.
All right, we'll see you next Monday, gals.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrinkwine.com and be sure to follow us over on Instagram, Love Life Sober, and I'm Not Sober, I'm Free.
To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites, meethollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com.
Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two.
And don't forget to subscribe to our pod so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify.
This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle find hope and encouragement.
Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you, and we'll see you next Monday.